Don in London, hello. April 14th. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour could be equally addictive around people, places and things. And these days I'm learning how to be sober on a one-day basis, because that's the only place I've got, one day, today, to be sober. I've been doing it for a few years continuously, and it seems to be far easier to live life without a drink inside me. Yeah, in the old days, 35 years of drinking, I don't know when I became drink dependent, I don't know when I became dependent on people, places and things for my self-esteem or whatever it was I was trying to achieve. I became a hopeless case. And in the addiction, ignorance is not bliss, because ignorance keeps us drinking because we think eventually our willpower will get us out of the situation, or by some magic the cure will come our way. And I guess people have been looking for the cure for addiction for a long time. And of course there is no cure as such, there's just recovery, one day at a time. So what's helped me? When I was drinking and I was very ill, family, friends, community, professionals, medical people kept me alive long enough to get a moment of clarity, which was, it cannot get any worse and I cannot do it on my own, so what am I going to do now? So I didn't then think, oh, I'll go to Alcoholics Anonymous, a fellowship of people who have a desire to stop drinking. I rang up my psychiatrist, who I hadn't seen for a long time, courtesy of our national health system, and said, please help me, I can't stop and I don't know what to do. And that was the first moment when I asked for help, real help, to stop and stay stopped. And it took a while to understand what my malady was, that I was ill emotionally, physically and spiritually. And the reason why I say all three of those things, starting with my emotional state, I was completely bonkers and driven mad by drink and simply seeking oblivion. And physically, I didn't think, well, I know now from what people told me, medical people, that I didn't have much time left. And then this thing of spiritual, I had no clue how to live in one day, the one day I have, to be alive today. So emotional, spiritual and physically not well at all. So a great big problem. And as time went by, it was suggested I go to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I was a very poor student. I went to AA one day, pushed through the doors by my sister, who was completely distressed, as was the rest of the family, by my situation. And I saw in that meeting on a Sunday morning friends from my gym, neighbours and my mum's best friend in the front row. And I admitted I was an alcoholic, and then walked out the door, up the road to a pub and had a pint of beer. It was a bit of a shock to the system, and I wasn't in a place where I could understand what was going on. So it was another 5 years before I got to another meeting, and that's not recommended, but it's something that many of us have done. Known there is a place where we can go to talk about what is alcoholism and what is recovery. But we're not good, you know, we still want our willpower, self-will, and to prove to the world that we are worthy of knowing. But the problem with addiction is there is no way of stopping and staying stopped and finding a life to live one day at a time, unless we have a solution. So AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, has offered me a solution. So I must say that AA is not the only way, and people live useful, productive lives and are happy not drinking in other ways. It depends on our life situation and circumstances. But for me, AA proved to be the way forward. So, I don't speak for AA, can't, don't want to, because every single person in the fellowship is unique, authentic, has their own message of experience, strength and hope and how to be sober. So we don't speak on behalf of each other, we just speak on behalf of ourselves, and this is what I do here. But if I didn't include the story of AA in it, there would be a big gap in sharing what can help, and there would be a big gap in truth, because in truth fellowship keeps me sober so the rest of my life can work. So here I share about what is AA, some of the daily readings, and a bit about the programme of the 12 steps. And what makes it all possible is the fellowship, which is the 12 traditions holding it together in unity, service and recovery. So I start with an AA preamble, which is on this little card, said at the beginning of any meeting that you will attend. Whether you're in this country or another country, it always starts with the AA preamble to remind us why we're there and what is important to us. So I'm going to start with that and then cover some daily readings which are for this day, produced by the fellowship. Again, I don't speak for the fellowship, never can, never will, but the utensils or the toolkit is available free to anyone who has a desire to be sober. So I'll start with the preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I've been contemplating what to do, because my computer was down yesterday and was awkward the day before. My broadband failed, and life became a little bit unmanageable about my production facility, namely my computer. So I abandoned it and I said, okay, let's go do something else. Do something useful which is not to do with the computer, worrying, fretting or being obsessed that when will it come back online. That's a simple answer. Find an alternative if something isn't working. But what about AA? Well, it's helped me learn how to be myself and learn about more of who I am by the end of the day. It's not about being the best in the fellowship or best in life. It's about making the best of what is life. So I'm very grateful, and sometimes, even though when life is not running very smoothly, life is life. So we make changes, make alternatives and try and help as best we can. And over the last few days there's been quite a lot of consternation with some of my friends, local to me, around situations they're facing. And it's good to talk to people. It sharpens up my outlook about what am I doing with my sobriety, how may I be useful these days. Anyway, I'm going to start the daily readings with this book, Daily Reflections, produced by AA for AA people, or just for anybody who wants to find out more about what it is that keeps us sober. So for April the 14th, it says here, the number one offender. Resentment is the number one offender. Resentment about anything to do with people, places and things. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else, and other human beings. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease, that is, the inability to live in the moment of now, and live well. For we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. And the spiritual malady often is not being able to cope with reality, and then get resentful about it. So from resentment comes anger, and often rage, and unfortunately that tips us back to the problem and relapse. It goes on to say, as I look at myself practicing the fourth step, which is doing a self-appraisal, a fearless moral inventory, it is easy to gloss over the wrong that I have done, because I can easily see it as a question of getting even for a wrong done to me. If I continue to relive my old hurt, it is a resentment, and resentment bars the sunlight from my soul. If I continue to relive hurts and hates, I will hurt and hate myself. After years in the dark of resentments, I have found the sunlight. I must let go of resentments. I cannot afford them. And, you know, it is a very dark place when we are looking to, rather than make restitution and forgive ourselves for all of that unpleasantness that we were in our emotional fog, and then our emotional ignorance, and then our emotional reaction to the world in a negative way, which was to point the finger at other people, not realizing there were probably three pointing back at us. It's very difficult. We're angry, rageful. So step 4 is really about dealing with what made me resentful in the past. Because if I don't deal with the past, it will come into the present moment very often as an automatic reaction to what we perceive as wrongdoing by other people, or life not being fair. What have I done to deserve this? And the simple answer is sometimes we only deserve it because we happen to be in the way, or we happen to be in a certain place when things aren't going well. And we can bring the hatefulness from the past right into the present because we automatically always react that way. So part of the inventory is to say, okay, that's how I used to behave. Let's look at this situation, the real life situation, and what my feelings are about it. And are my feelings fitting what is going on, or am I piling in decades of resentments into one situation and a group of people I might be with? And that's very difficult, because it means we may want to get our own back, or worse, we just scuttle off and hate ourselves even more for not being in power, and feel like we ought to drink to get and seek oblivion. Oblivion is the #1 offender for me, putting myself out of it so I don't have to deal with it. And these days I do prefer to deal with life on life's terms, even when it's really painful and I have to pay large amounts of money to live, and don't feel any benefit other than I'm maybe still alive today. Well, actually I'm very grateful to be alive today. Anyway, on page 193 of As Bill Sees It, Bill Wilson, a co-founder, these are collections of writings over the years of somebody who stayed sober and looked at what was emotional, spiritual and physical well-being. So page 193, the spiritual alibi. Our first attempts at inventories, that's doing self-appraisal, are apt to prove very unrealistic. I used to be a champ at unrealistic self-appraisal. On certain occasions I wanted to look only at the part of my life which seemed good. Then I would greatly exaggerate what virtues I supposed I had attained. In other words, when we do a CV, or these days, we like to present the best of us, but we don't talk about the worst of us. We don't look at the downside because it's negative. Actually, what our program says is look at both sides of the coin, the good and the bad, and then reflect on that, and then look at what to do next. We don't have to share with every other human being on the planet what were our bad points, but unless we acknowledge them and work on them, they're going to haunt us and come back to bite us. Then I would greatly exaggerate whatever virtues I suppose I had attained. Next I would congratulate myself on the grand job I was doing in AA. And of course we want to look to the positives, and we will have a great big carpet, a sweeping brush and lots of things to put under it. Naturally this generated a terrible hankering for still more accomplishments and still more approval. I was falling straight back into the pattern of my drinking days. Here was the same old goals: power, fame and applause. Besides, I had the best alibi known, the spiritual alibi. The fact that I really did have a spiritual objective made this utter nonsense seem perfectly right. So the spiritual alibi, doing good, or rather being a do-gooder, doesn't help. We actually have to do good rather than be a do-gooder. And the spiritual alibi, which is about seeking greater perfection or progress, means we put ourselves under false expectations. We expect that we can influence other people to our point of view. And the whole thing about the program of AA is to develop your own point of view, have your freedom of choices and share experience, strength and hope of how life works, but not to say it's better than anybody else's, because we don't attain a greater spiritual awareness. We gain a better understanding of reality, which improves our conscious contact with what's going on. And that's spiritual according to a lot of religious people and non-religious people. So the best spiritual gurus in this life have probably had the worst experience of life and are still alive to talk about it and what is working for them today, because spiritual only works now, in the moment. It doesn't work anywhere else. We can get better at living in the moment by improving our attributes which work and looking at the deficits or defects that we have had. So for me, the deficits are extremes of behaviour, whether I'm looking at faith, courage and confidence. If I have extreme faith, extreme courage and extreme confidence, which has no basis in reality, but is just a pipe dream. And similarly, if I am experiencing great fear, having to put a brave face on, and my ego is keeping out the world and me sharing the truth, these extremes don't help me either. They block out reality, which is somewhere in the middle. So when our feelings are the same side as our experience, the experience we're having, that we can enjoy the moment because that's what it is, rather than waiting for the next moment or looking at the past and thinking it ought to look like that. Then we stop resenting ourselves and resenting other people for not helping us produce the expected outcome. And expectations are often called resentments under construction. Expectations are resentment under construction if those expectations have no foundation in reality. And as you get older, you realise your expectations are becoming more limited. Believe you me, it does pry on my mind from time to time, but that doesn't make me fearful of death or anything like that. It just makes me reflect that time is short sometimes. In this book, the 24-Hour Day book from Hazelden, not an AA book, and the reason why I emphasise that is the fellowship literature tends to place us in a place of equality around our life chances and freedoms, and not in power. And whereas conventional psychology or psychiatry offers a degree of power and control which is not helpful to recovery, as the 12-step program is, because it's all about being powerless over alcohol, people, places and things, but fitting in and being interdependent so we get the best freedom of choice we have based on reality. So it's not about false expectations, and sometimes therapeutic process gives us expectations beyond the possible. And there are many other forms of expectations which are created as vision, which are impractical if the person doing the vision has no understanding of the first step to get there. So it's all very well to have a dream, but it needs to have a foundation which is in reality, and then the vision can happen. Sounds a bit peculiar, but that's the way it is. Anyway, April 14th, from the Thought for the Day book, 24 Hours a Day. A police captain once told about certain cases he had come across in his police work. The cause of the tragedy in each case was drunkenness. He told us his audience about a man who got into an argument with his wife while he was drunk and beat her to death. Then he went out and drank some more. The police captain also told about a woman who got too near the edge of an old quarry hole when she was drunk and fell 150 feet to her death. When I read or hear these stories, do I think about our motto, but for the grace of God? Yes, and the grace of God is something we work on, or good conscience, or whatever it is that we believe a higher power to be. But for the grace of the truth of now, if I'm drunk and go near a quarry, I'll fall in, probably, or could do. But for the grace of God, if I were married and I got drunk, angry and resentful, I could get violent toward myself and other people, and then go out and drink some more, having no clue. And I have listened to people who have been to prison and spent 20 years or more in prison for killing people while in blackout. They don't know they did it, but they know they did it because they've been found out and it's been proved. And how do you live with that? So I prefer sober today because I don't want to go back to a scenario like that, or even have a chance that that sort of thing could happen in my life. I know if I had ultimately done that, I think I would have jumped off a cliff or jumped off into a quarry. That's just me. But you know, the whole thing of living is really about forgiving ourselves, being able to see reality, make the best choices, understand what truth is, understand what love is, understand the wisdom of everybody around us. That's how it works for me. Letting the world in to help me with my freedoms and stay unique and authentic, like you, I hope. So at the end of these videos, and there's 3 more bits of this to follow from previous years, I share the serenity prayer to God or good conscience as you come to understand for yourself. And whatever your higher power is, mine's based on truth, love and wisdom, which I get from other people. Everything's a higher power to me, wherever wisdom is concerned. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Always for me, in the moment, and just for today. Substance and behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour, equally addictive. People, places, things, work, relationships, collecting, materialism, marketing person's dream. Been an interesting 24 hours. And yeah, a few things going on in my life, in recovery, but just a bit of background. 35 years of drinking. First drink did the damage. It changed the way I felt. It made me feel relaxed, joyful, accessed feelings beyond fear. So fear was probably one of those things which was my companion for most of my life. Fear as a companion. Not good. And even now, these days, fear can creep up on me, and I realise sometimes truth can be watered down simply because we don't want to hurt another person or people. So it's difficult, and if we don't share the truth of what we have inside us, the difficulty is we are always fearing the outcome of what might happen next. So these days I am still working on the truth and working out what is the next right choice and how to be me. So I'm just making progress one day at a time. I'm just another human making simple progress. So what's it like in recovery? Yes, we still have our feelings, and we still seek the truth of now. We still look for what are our best choices. Life does not run smoothly. It was never designed to. I don't think it was. Nature is about all the forces that are inside us, our instincts. And April, this month, in a program which I am part of, the 12-step program of recovery, I'm a fellow in the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. It's all about finding the truth of who we were, so we can find the truth of now. And it's very easy to try deny the truth of what is going on when it's not going our way. And yesterday I thought I was unable to do 1 or 2 things, which then led into denial about having to go have an MRI, which is a scan, to check what sort of damage exists in my nervous system and my bones. Didn't want to do it, but I did it, and it was quite a pleasant experience. But I'll talk about that in a moment. First of all, fellowship. The fellowship of AA, I don't speak for it. Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't speak for it. Never can, never will. Full of unique, authentic people finding the truth on a daily basis, simply making progress. But we have one similarity, and that one similarity is a desire not to drink on a daily basis. So I share about AA, because it provides me with experience, strength and hope on a daily basis to keep on going when life is tough, and equally when life is good. So what is AA? I share the statement of intent about what it is, a bit of literature, and a bit of what is happening to me today. I choose to share so that those who have no idea what AA may be or some who cannot get to meetings, can connect. So I try and use the literature as best I can. So it is a message of experience, strength and hope. And this is the reason why in the AA Statement of Intent, or AA Preamble, shared at every meeting I ever go to, and it reads like this: Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses or opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So part of that is actually telling the truth of what's going on today, and being alert and being a part of life and trying not to be in denial. And it was pointed out by a friend of mine that sometimes when I don't share the absolute truth of what's going on in the moment, it can be quite destructive, because then I will follow it up in some other form of communication. Yeah, that's because I don't always understand what's going on in the moment, just like all people. And also the people who are responding and reacting and interacting with me. So we don't know quite sometimes what our motives are. But we have a better clue with the 12-step program of AA, which helps us on a daily basis find out what the truth may be. And I share from this book, Daily Reflections, which is a one-page a day, all about recovery and the 12 steps of action to change our attitude and behaviour, all in a day. And April is all about step 4, which is about doing a fearless moral inventory, so that when we get to step 10, which is about doing a daily inventory of how am I feeling and what have I done today, we have a more truthful outlook with less denial. I'm just going to read something out which is the accompaniment to this video, and yeah, it's important for me anyway. It reads, let go, let God. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. God's plan is now. Denial moves in mysterious ways. In other words, my denial moves in mysterious ways. It blocks me from the truth of now. We humans are missing out on the wonders to behold right here and right now. Love, joy, pain and suffering always inside us. Waiting for God is denial. Handing it over is letting in the truth, so we may find out our best choices with love and wisdom, feeling in the moment, sanity restored as we make progress. And the reason why I say that is because it's so easy. When we say let go and let God, we don't, if we wait and don't understand, we're not digging into what's going on. If we let go and let God, it's about letting in and dealing with what's going on right now. And when we hand it over, or handing it over to God, is handing it over to the wisdom that we can gain from the universe by telling the truth. And I need to do that more as well, because I can cause conflict and misunderstandings as much as anybody else. Anyway, that's got nothing to do with the reading, or maybe it has for today. I'm going to share it now just in case I get run low on time. April 14th, the number one offender. Resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease, for we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. And spiritually sick, spiritual is the moment of now, right now. It's what we've got. It's the wonder to behold right now. As I look at myself practicing the 4th step, it is easy to gloss over the wrong that I have done, because I can easily see it as a question of getting even for a wrong done to me. If I continue to relive my old hurt, and that's also about denial, reliving the old, it is a resentment, and resentment bars the sunlight from my soul, in other words, the truth of now. If I continue to relive hurts and hates, I will hurt and hate myself. After years in the dark of resentments, I have found the sunlight. I must let go of resentments. I cannot afford them. And part of the I cannot afford resentments is accepting that when we tell the truth, that it doesn't always land well, and sometimes people are going to turn around and say, they're going to tell you to fuck off. But the truth of that is, it could be that we're wrong, and sometimes we need to admit it promptly, or we just accept that we may be right and true, but does it need to be said by me? And these are all questions which we answer in the now, if we let people in. Anyway, I'm running short on time. I wanted to say so many different things. Yes, I had my MRI scan yesterday, and yes, I'm in pain, emotional and spiritual, as well as physical, and that's because I need to keep on going for the truth. So what helps me? The serenity prayer. To God, all good conscience, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is just for today. It's all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. And end of bank holiday weekend, now Tuesday, 9:30 in the morning, the world has started to turn again in terms of commercial and industry, or as well as it can do in a credit crunch. But we have to live with what we have. And the gift for me these days is I don't drink on a daily basis. My substance of addiction was alcohol, my behaviour, workaholic, relationshipaholic, gymaholic, any old ism. But now I seem to be in the ism of today, where I can find the truth of now. And the truth of now for me is recovery. What helps me most, and I would never have thought I'd say this 5 years ago, because I was very much a doubter about life and joining anything, is fellowship. And what is fellowship? It's a place where we feel okay, same size, able to express ourselves openly, honestly, and willing to do so, to challenge the status quo, to challenge how we're doing on a daily basis. And my fellowship is Alcoholics Anonymous. It's not mine as such, I just go to it. And I never speak for it. It doesn't have any speakers, as it were, who actually put out a message about this is alcoholics and this is what it will do for you, because it can't do that. It doesn't work that way. A fellowship is a bunch of people getting together and seeing how they can do something with a common aim. And in the preamble of the AA meetings, excuse me, this is what it says. Now, please remember, I don't speak for AA, I speak for myself and how AA has helped me. So this is the preamble I experience at every meeting. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And that's it, really. It's a desire to stop drinking on a daily basis and not to pick one up, and to try and make life work as best we can. So really what people do in fellowship is put the sobriety first so that the rest of life can work as best it can, given the nature of the circumstances in which we live and where we've got to. So we're never at the same starting point, except when we stop drinking and we try and find a way to make life work again. And it's horrible, because we've been addicted, we've been driven by 1,000 forms of fear for quite a long time probably. We've used our ego and our brave face to try and make ourselves okay in the bigger picture of being with other people. But what I found was I was isolated, alone, excluded by my own habit, my own addiction to alcohol and to the other things which went with it. So these days I try and get a more open, honest and bigger picture of what life can be by being sober, being involved again, being included in society, family, community. So, why do I do these videos? Well, because it gives me a sense of purpose to share the message and to help others who maybe cannot get to AA or are still wondering what to do. And AA is not the only way. mean, it took a lot of medical support to keep me going a number of times when I actually overdid it and was facing extinction. And, you know, those times I don't forget. And why should I? You know, I need reminding of where I came from and what I'm doing now. But the most important thing is keeping everything in this one day. I mean, the fellowship program is designed to work for one day. And, you know, if we try to do this for a whole lifetime, the mountain would be so big to climb we would stop and start drinking, I guess, again. So whatever floats your boat, whether it's AA or some other form of medical professional support, rehab, going into a mental institution, as it often said, which are rehabs, then whatever works, work with it, rather than complain about it, or try and, I suppose, undermine our own recovery, or the recovery of other people. We need to find a way to keep sober, so that the rest of life can work just on a daily basis. So here I am, and I use the books of AA, or the literature of AA, to help illustrate what's going on for me and what I may do. And one of my meetings last night was all about how to use prayer and meditation. And again, if you'd asked me 5 years ago how would I use prayer and meditation in my life, I'd have said, go take a walk or take a flying jump at something. But these days I've understood that there is a better way to live, and a bit of meditation and a bit of focus on a daily basis to introduce good routines into my life, rather than relying on something to obliterate my outlook, is far superior and keeps me going, because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I can only deal with what is now. So the Fellowship of AA has helped me do that. And, you know, good routines are about establishing a pattern of good living as best we can. I feel like I'm preaching, and I'm not trying to, but I think it's because I looked at a couple of anti-AA videos, and I think they need to be out there. I feel they ought to be out there, to give a contrast so that people can make up their own minds. So, you know, this is not for me. It's not for me to persuade you one way or another. It's just to show by example how it's helping me. And the daily reflections, this book, does a daily reading around the 12 steps of AA. So there's a 12-step action program for individuals, and all these 12 steps can work in a day once we become familiar with what they are and how they work. So April is all about the 4th step, which is doing a fearless moral inventory of ourselves. It's almost like a self-appraisal of our good side and our bad side, and where are the resentments in our life which kept us drinking for such a long time. And, you know, once we've started drinking, how do we stop? That's a good question. I go to AA. It keeps me sober one day only. And it says here for April the 14th, the number 1 offender. Resentment is the number 1 offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From its stem all forms of spiritual disease, for we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. As I look at myself practicing the 4th step, it is easy to gloss over the wrong that I have done, because I can easily see it as a question of getting even for a wrong done to me. If I continue to relive my old hurt, it is resentment, and resentment bars the sunlight from my soul. If I continue to relive hurts and hates, I will hurt and hate myself. After years in the dark of resentments, I have found the sunlight. I must let go of resentment. I cannot afford them. And, you know, I could have resentments about lots of things. I could say my family wasn't right for me, my career wasn't right for me. But do you know what? I was doing the best I could with what I knew at the time. And it wasn't always happy, but there were good times in there as well. So it's not all doom and gloom. We don't have to, I suppose, we don't have to trash the past. What we need to do is cherish those bits which worked for us, and find out why we resented some things, and what kept us resenting to the point of abstraction and frustration, and then resentment, because resentment will make us angry, and we're looking to blame. So these days I'm not looking to blame at all, and life is as it is, as it can be. And in As God Sees It, which is, I'm just doing these linearly, it says here, only God is unchanging. Change is the characteristic of all growth, and it is, change is the characteristic of all growth. From drinking to sobriety, from dishonesty to honesty, from conflict to serenity, from hate to love, from childish dependence to adult responsibility. All this and infinitely more represent change for the better.
Such changes are accomplished by belief in and a practice of sound principles. Here we must needs discard bad or ineffective principles in favour of good ones that work. Even good principles can sometimes be displaced by the discovery of still better ones. And it says here, only God is unchanging. Only He has the truth there is. And maybe what we look for is the truth in each day. And for me, God is love, God is truth. God works through people. And it's an asset that anybody can have as they choose to understand some sort of higher power to make us calibrate our day. So when we say the serenity prayer, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We just get that opportunity in one day.
Nice. All about AA. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supported through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help others to achieve sobriety. And Monday morning. Yesterday, interesting day. I engaged in a little bit of scuffling with somebody who's against AA, pretty much, and sees it as the demon in their lives, even though they don't go anymore. And I'm sorry it's that way. I really am. Sometimes, I guess, depending how we are, when we enter into some sort of new adventure, or a venture which is there to help us make sense of life again, we can become angry and resentful, or worse, we tap into the anger and resentment of all of our lives and push the blame somewhere else. And I can't speak for other people's experiences of AA, but some people definitely have had bad experiences inside the fellowship of AA. And why? Why, oh why? Well, if we go back to the core material of all of us who get to AA at all, we have been tortured and tormented by our drinking habit, which has made us quite mad and insane, because we can't stop doing something which is killing us, and that's drinking. So we all come into AA with our lifetime of experiences, and we're very vulnerable. And as we go along with the fellowship, trying to find out how to make life work again, some of us get well and start to get recovery, and some of us get stuck and can't get any recovery, and it's not anybody's fault. And this is the whole dimension of why people either stick with AA because it does something useful for them, or they drop out because it's not helping. And it's nobody's fault, because a bunch of drunks trying to stay sober on a daily basis is really what you encounter when you go to a meeting of AA. And I guess if it were an organisation, we could blame it and say you haven't actually achieved your performance management targets. Or if it was a cult, we'd have to have a leader who was actually directing all operations to make people sober, and then to conform and comport themselves in some way. And the absolute truth, if you look at the 12 steps of AA, it's all about how to get freedom of choice back and get support from a group of people who know and understand what drink has done. That's about as far as it can go, because after you get to that stage of getting your freedom of choice back, you make your choices, and some are to the good and some are to the bad. And the trouble with this misunderstanding about AA being dogmatic and occult gives it power it doesn't have. AA has no power over people. And similarly, people within AA, they don't have power over other people unless the people feel they have somebody giving them something they want and are willing to accept unacceptable conditions. So most people in AA have a middle-of-the-road experience of finding people just doing this, trying to get sober a day at a time and sharing their experiences. And there's nothing behind it. nothing behind it. This is the gift. You don't have to pay anything for it, and there's no payback, and you don't have to keep on coming to AA, and you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And for those who want to make it something bigger, like an organisation which has hierarchy, says something about that person. So if the person is apt to want to be a leader, or is apt to be a follower, it's got nothing to do with AA. AA is simply the sobriety. Tradition 3, a desire to stop drinking. And if in the fullness of time somebody comes to AA and finds that somebody's pressuring them in some peculiar fashion, they should tell them to bog off, or worse, whatever words work. But the whole point is to get sober, to find your path and get on. And I did that last night. I went and did a share for somebody who wanted a speaker about how to get your life back and exercise good choices. Anyway, look at this book, Practicing the Power of Now. Not an AA book, but it has a lot to say about the human condition and the power of now. This spiritual connection is to truth in this moment, not to some ideology. Anyway, it says this: the body's reaction to your mind. Mind, in the way I use the word, is not just thought. It includes your emotions as well as all unconscious mental, emotional, reactive patterns. Emotion arises at the place where mind and body meet. It is the body's reaction to your mind, or you might say a reflection of your mind and the mind in the body. The more you are identified with your thinking, your likes and dislikes, judgments and interpretations, which is to say the less present you are as the watching consciousness, the stronger the emotional energy charge will be. Whether you are aware of it or not, if you cannot feel your emotions, if you are cut off from them, you will eventually experience them on a purely physical level, as a physical problem or symptom. And that's exactly what happens with drinking. We drink because we haven't got a sense of our own identity, and things aren't working for us. That's when we go full pelt and then become addicted. So, people outside the fellowship know and understand, and all that people in the fellowship have done for donkey's years is try and make the best of what they've got. And with a few simple steps to help us on the way. Daily reflections, AA readings, daily readings. This month, April, all about step 4, and each month represents one of the steps. So, in a sort of easy way, we can do the steps as we go. The number 1 offender, April 14th. Resentment is the number 1 offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stems all forms of spiritual disease, for we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 64, written some 70 years ago, or less actually. As I look at myself practicing the 4th step, it is easy to gloss over the wrong that I have done, because I can easily see it as a question of getting even for a wrong done to me. If I continue to relive my old hurt, it is a resentment, and a resentment bars the sunlight from my soul. If I continue to relieve hurts and hates, I will hurt and hate myself. Or relive hurts and hates, I will hurt and hate myself. After years in the dark of resentments, I have found the sunlight. I must let go of resentments, I cannot afford them. And as somebody said to me yesterday as a reply, are you getting thirsty? And it made me laugh, because that is the oldest dig in the world as an alcoholic who is in recovery. Are you feeling thirsty? And the answer was, not really, but I might be. It might be underneath, I don't know. But you see, resentments are the number 1 offender. And why should I cause resentment in another person by telling them that they are not right? I don't know why I started that. It was a very foolish thing to do. And we all learn by our mistakes in the day. So step 10 has been done. Step 10 is the making amends and sorting it out as quickly as possible. Or my side of it anyway. Coming back to as Bill sees it, one of the founders, spot checking. Yes, step 10. A spot check inventory taken in the midst of disturbances can be of great help in quieting stormy emotions. Today, spot check finds its chief application to situations which arise in each day's march. The consideration of long-standing difficulties and better be postponed, when possible, to times deliberately set aside for that purpose. The quick inventory is aimed at our daily ups and downs, especially those where people or new events throw us off balance and tempt us to make mistakes. And I was tempted to make some mistakes yesterday, and it's foolhardy of me to think that in any shape or form I might change another person to my point of view. Only a person can change their point of view, so I've been told. It's easy when we learn how, and the amends is not to do it anymore. That's the living amends. So I'm learning each day a little bit more. How odd. Who would have thought it?